Why do you think security fencing is going around the White House? They're putting up major fencing around special buildings and the White House, the Vice President's house, and parts of Capitol Hill. Why are they doing that? You know, we talked about July 4th yesterday. It's amazing that we're having to put up security fence, and they're working 24 hours a day tirelessly to get this fence up. We're going to talk about the risk to DC and our cities, but also why we're letting it get to this far. Along with that, there's a new data showing where a lot of these people that are going to these rallies, these people that are setting up to protest on July 4th, guess where their cell phones are pinging from? It will blow your mind of where their information and maybe their funding is coming from. Big story. Also, we're going to discuss, are we better off than what we were, 50, 60, 70 years ago? We're going to go over some data, and I want you to think back, because some of you are in that age range where you remember, or your grandparents or your parents told you stories about times before government intervention. We're going to discuss how things have changed, our health, our money, and truly, are we living in slavery? The truth is we are. Let's dive into these two stories today. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here. We are humbled by your support, and we thank you for allowing us to be part of your daily life. And we hope that the things that we share are beneficial to you. We hope that you can gain some wisdom. I know our cat has been like the superstar of our videos lately. I don't know what it is, but this kitten that we just got, my kids just got, it was a random stray. Now our kids love it, but I think she wants to be famous because she's always trying to be in the camera. No matter what video we're filming, where we're filming, this cat is there and she's doing crazy things like jumping around. But that's okay though. Hey, if you want to know more about the cat, know more about our life, go check out our other channel, The Life of Colby Mack. That's my vlog channel. We just live sustainable and we show you what we do on the farm, and we talk about the cat. We talk about all kind of other things like our calf that we're nursing back to health right now. Also, my wife's channel, Life on the Farm. Go check it out. Our goal is to show you how we do this sustainable living. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's discuss the White House. Now, I don't know about you. I'm going to show you this video. What they're saying is this is just preliminary, nothing big, but they're saying crews are installing large anti-scale barricades along and around the White House, the Treasury Department, also going in by the Supreme Court, along with the Vice President's home. They are also putting it around parts of the U.S. Capitol. Now you tell me, what are they thinking or what are they seeing that they're worried about a wall being scaled? Now they're also making sure that these fences are held up by concrete barriers, along with them not being wood, along with them not being cyclone to where people can get grips on them. They're making them where they're unscalable. They're making them usually around 8 feet tall. Now, hopefully it's nothing to it. But there's two problems with this. First of all, why in a free, safe nation, in a first world country, a place where freedom, we believe in American values. And this is where we're going to go back and talk in just a few minutes about America. Where have we ever gotten to a point where we've been led so astray that we have hatred among Americans? Now, we can disagree and be disgruntled, but the polarizing fact is that we literally despise each other. And it's so sad to me, especially as we talk on this on Sunday. I mean, hopefully you're in church. Hopefully you're trying to, even if you disagree with somebody, you try to find common ground or at least try to present your side. But instead, we see absolute pandemonium. Well, the more that we see these kind of fences going up, the more we see the separation of and the polarization, the more I believe we're going to see infighting, which actually makes America look weaker. I mean, here we are fixing to celebrate our independence, and we're putting up fencing around our buildings because we're scared that some people think that independence is a bad thing. It blows my mind. Have you ever thought that you would see a time where socialism has become back in the mainstream in communism, where people are actually wanting this. The Democrats are actually backing this. Look how many people back Mamdani in New York City. I want you to go look at the comments. Just go to Twitter and type in Democrats or type in Mamdani, and you're going to see all these comments of all these people that are backing this communist socialist move. That's not a good thing. So we're celebrating independence at the same time we're saying we want someone who is going to give us government health care, government supermarkets, government liberation, no police, free the jail people. I mean, that's kind of what we're pushing for. So when we see these scalable fences, it's almost an oxymoronic thing, because we see the good things that Trump is doing. We see the fact that we're pushing for freedom, but then we see literally such a polarization in how people truly hate freedom. Listen to this. This was from cell phone data, and this is why I'm telling you always be careful, because I believe people know more about you than sometimes you know about yourself, because we rely on technology just for everything. 2 stories that deal with this, with the fencing. One story came out and said, well, part of the scaling of the fence, part of the problem with the fence is that from Saturday, June 28th, which was yesterday, to July 4th, people are planning on marching on Washington in support of Iran. Now, that's crazy, especially after we've kind of pulled out and we've done more peace. There's still people that's going to literally protest for that. Now, it says incoming riots, or is it just the fact that people don't like America and Trump? It says these reports are coming out that they're having to put up more fencing and more fencing. The problem is this. Cell phone locations are linked from the far left protest. So the people that are supporting this, guess who they're linked to? And the phones are linked to 2 countries, Iran and China. Both these are linked to the consulate in Iran and China. These groups are central to street resistance. They are led by the CCP and actually funded predominantly by the CCP. Now remember, if you want to hurt a country, then you can hurt them from within by making division within their people. Well, if the main funding of these protests that's in quote-unquote support of Iran is literally funding from the propaganda side or the color revolution side of the Chinese consulate and the CCP, along with Iran and other players there, don't you think that's a bad thing? Don't you think that's called infiltration? Don't you think that's dangerous for allowing this to happen? And we're putting up fence. I wonder how much it costs to put up all this fence in the name of, quote, safety for our president, vice president, and elected officials. I want you to listen to this. Dan Bongino shared this. Is his former high-ranking New York State government employee charged with acting as an undisclosed agent for the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. So we have people literally in our state governments. Now in New York, we talked about California just a few weeks ago. Now in New York, that is actually a high-ranking aide for Hochul and was for Cuomo as well. So we have the revolutions, color revolutions, the protests that's being funded by China, and they're supporting Iran. And now we're seeing we're having to put up high-scale fences around our own places for our own independence, a celebration. Another story from New York Post. Ex-Hochul and Cuomo aide accused of working as a Chinese foreign agent. Different stories now. So we wonder why we have to keep on putting up fencing. Well, 2 things. We have foreign players in our election. I love how everybody wants to bring up Israel, but we forget the fact of Iran, China, and all these other players who actually hate us. It's amazing to me how we won't call them out. And guess what? Just like Dan Bongino sharing these stories, I've not seen any arrest. And just like all these congressmen and senators, how they're going to help us and support American values, I don't see them actually do anything to truly support American values. And now we're having to put up fencing for our own Declaration of Independence and the time of celebration for our country. And we're worried about protest. We're worried about chaos. We're worried about riots. So we're putting unscalable fences in D.C. They said they're doing this in a lot of cities. We talked about this yesterday. Go back and watch my video yesterday on July 4th. But if we keep seeing these kind of situations, are we literally living in a nation that we believe is free and that are on the same page? You can disagree with someone, but if we get to the point where we literally hate each other, then I believe actually China, Iran, all the enemies of America is truly winning. Because the only way to destroy America is from within. One thing I've learned is this. It seems we've done amazing jobs of making sure America is strong, especially in the world. But what about America back at home? I'm scared that we're keeping our focus on what everyone else thinks about us, and we're not actually building up our home here in America. We're not actually making Americans believe in the American freedom and prosperity. I think that's a migration problem. I think that we should make sure people are assimilating. We need to understand history, because we're celebrating independence. All the while we're having to put up security fencing for riots, because people would rather literally protest for communistic countries, socialistic countries, and countries that actually don't have values for the people that are actually protesting. What's so funny is some of the biggest groups that are protesting are anarchists, pride events, and people who like liberal women. Those three groups in Iran or China or any other communistic country, especially in the Middle East, would be gone. They would be gone. So it's funny how they can brainwash people enough. Now, you know how they're doing it too? There's a new story that came out from Salesforce, and also Morgan and Fall both shared the story. It said that most people are so intoxicated with AI that anything and everything they are believing and saying, anything and everything they're reading, if they are using AI to facilitate it, if they're using AI to quote-unquote check it, what they're doing is believing exactly what AI says. It's become like a truth bearer tool, more than even the news, more than even their family members. It says people are using AI, such as LLMs, like Grok, ChatGPT, all these things, and they're using them as the historical basis. It says they're using that to actually formulate an opinion and think it's completely based on truth. And he says, in Mario and the Fall story, it says that most people have now built a groupthink to where whatever AI tells them, they wholeheartedly believe it without actually checking it, because they believe AI is checking the sources. And remember, AI has got the same biases that most. For instance, the situation that Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida, where he's building this hub, this migrant hub to hold people. Well, there's been, these pictures shared online that it's this big tent and it's got a moat around it and all that. Yes, they're building this tent. They're building this I wouldn't say prison, but this holding facility. It looks nothing like the one that AI shared online that actually became considered quote-unquote truth. It was not true. But people didn't fact check it. So now all of a sudden, they're believing what AI is telling them. You wonder how in the world that we're going to be so blinded, and that we are now believing that Mamdani, who is a Muslim socialist communist who believes that freedom is wrong, and that capitalism is wrong, and that Christianity is wrong, and the Jews are wrong. I mean, are we really believing that? Well, if AI tells us, then sadly people are starting to believe that communism and socialism is the way. I can't believe we're seeing this in our cities. Now, if you don't believe me, if you don't believe the high-scale fence issues and the Declaration of Independence is an issue, and these riots who support communists and socialists and are backed by CCP, you don't believe that's the truth, I want you to listen to this, and this kind of leads me to the second part of this video. We are basically slaves, and if you don't believe it, I want you to just listen to just a few things. And I want you to ask your parents or grandparents or great-grandparents if they're still alive, if you don't believe this. Why do you believe that you're free? I love this comment. Why do you believe if you're free? If you basically are living on a tax farm and you're working for the government. 125 years ago, you didn't have to have permission from the government to do a few things. To collect your rainwater, to go fishing, to own a property, to start a business, to renovate your home, to build a home, to use transportation vehicles, get married, hunt, own a weapon, cut hair, sell a product, protest, grow your own food on your property, set up a lemonade stand, or sell food. It says over the last 50 to 75 years, new laws have went into making sure you have to have permits to hunt, to own a weapon, to cut hair, to get married, to sell a product, to protest, to grow food on your property, set up a lemonade stand, collect rainwater, fish. Isn't it amazing how we have to have a permit? Basically, all that is taxation on the people. Did you know on my own property that I've bought, I have to pay property tax, don't we? I have to have easements allowed on there for utility companies to come in. We're building in a small home or a barn dominium. We have to worry about permitting for this and permitting for this, and worry about how the water flows for this, and we're in a conservative state. We really are living in slave times. We think we're not, because we go to work and we're able to work. But ultimately, did you have an opt-out policy to not pay taxes? No, you actually have to pay taxes. And they set the policy of taxes, and they get to spend the money that they want. And then, no matter how much you complain about it, you still got to pay more. Let's keep on going. It says, very interesting. If you went to school in the 70s, did you see anyone that had certain kind of peanut allergies? Did you see anyone that had gluten problems? Did you see a lot of kids who have autism, like they're saying now, is like 1 in 20? Did you go to school with anybody who thought they were a different gender? No, because we've been programmed to think that that's okay. And our food system is so bought off and so licensed and so regulated. Even the FDA and USDA is supposed to help us have safe foods. Those same quote-unquote safe foods and government regulation has now caused for problems and sickness and built all these food allergies. Before 1950, heart disease was so rare. Obesity affected only 10% of Americans. Then something happened. Suddenly, butter was the enemy, and seed oils was heart healthy. Hospitals replaced butter with margarine. Home cooks swapped lard for vegetable oil. And within a generation, obesity, diabetes, heart disease exploded. Now, why do I bring that up? Why is taxation, and you word about seed oils, what do they have to do with each other? Well, just like what I said about AI and about government regulation, when they put their stamp of approval on it, we just believe we can trust it. So now you see the same thing with communism and socialism, and we're putting this stamp of approval on it. Instead of actually fighting for freedom, fighting for less regulation, less taxation. There's only one governor out of 50 governors that's saying he wants to take away property tax. DeSantis. The sad thing is, even the Congress of Florida probably is not going to back that. So you're going to keep on paying taxes. So you're going to work hard to pay taxes. I want you to listen to what this guy, who's actually going to probably be the New York City mayor, just said. His goal is to tax more white neighborhoods. The richest among us. We need to shift the burden of taxes to people who are successful. We need to make sure that we are taxing them to help pay for the rest of us. That's exactly what he was saying. Tax these white neighborhoods. You don't believe we're living in true slave times when all our government wants to do, instead of actually getting on a budget, is quit spending our money, including the Republicans here. They want to tax you more. Taxation, when you have the government who literally can print their own money and literally cut their own budgets, and instead doing that, they want to charge you more tax. New York City is going to end up electing this guy. And this is just one city. This is happening all over, especially in all these liberal areas, and even in some conservative areas. Let's kind of go through this. Most states are not in financial good shape. And if they quit taxing their properties, or if they quit taxing their people, instead of cutting their budget, they would rather charge you more taxes than actually cut their budget to save you money. That's called overtaxing, which makes basically slave labor. Think about it. I told my wife this yesterday. We raise so much of our own food and meat, and we still have to buy things from Costco or from Whole Foods or wherever you want to go. And I said, I couldn't imagine us not raising all our own meat because the cost of meat is ridiculous right now. I couldn't imagine having to rely on just grocery stores. I couldn't imagine just depending on someone else to provide everything for me. At the same time, that's exactly what we're doing in our nation. Between AI, between groupthink, between this now push for socialism, communism-style governments from both sides of the aisle because of overtaxation. See, well, here's what it is. The more that we tax our people, the more we take our money from our people, the more we tell them this food is healthy without us doing research like we've been talking about the last few days, the more that we believe AI, the more we are becoming subservient to the powers above us. And the more that we actually need them, quote unquote, need them to help us. 100 years ago, they said there was pharmaceuticals were not even a big part of our life. Now they run our whole TV system. They literally are the biggest lobby in Washington. Do you think it's not obvious? What happens? If a hospital doesn't have people in the hospital, they make no money. If medicines are not being used, those people are not making any money. Now, do I believe any of that stuff is bad? No. It's kind of like this, though. If Congress wants more money, how do they get money? How does the government get money? They take it from you. It's the same situation. How does FDA and USDA have power? Because they're over the farms and now they regulate them, over-regulate them, to be honest with you. How do they deem what is actually good food and bad food for you? Do you actually believe they test it? What we're seeing now is the food that we have now is actually trash. But guess what? They have the biggest lobby, the biggest supporters, the biggest funders. What I've realized is this. Sometimes we just can't trust everybody. And the more that we trust, the more we put our faith and trust in these politicians, these regulatory bodies, our government telling us that we have to have this permit, this permit, this permit, this permit to do this. The more we put our thought pattern in AI, what we're actually doing is showing we are literally just living in slavery. But they give us just enough leash and enough freedom to think that we're free. Last example. My animals. Think about a farm. We let them graze. And we call them open graze, and we call them able to graze. But ultimately, they're still in fence, aren't they? My cows think they're on the open pastures. They can eat what they want, do what they want, because they're not in quote-unquote containment. They're not in a tight pen. Now, if they were in a tight pen, they'd go crazy. If I put my cows or sheep or pig in a tight pens, they end up breaking out. But if I open them up a little bit, they think they're free as can be. Ultimately, they're not free. They're just in a bigger pen. I think that's where we are in America. We've been let out a little bit, so we think, oh, we have independence, we're free. But actually, when you think about the taxation, when you think about the food regulations, when you think about all the things that you have to buy, the licensures, the permits, when you think about all the things that are pressed down on us from DC and from our state, I think we actually need to realize we're not free. We're just living in a bigger pen. Guys, give me your thought on today's video. I don't like seeing scalable fences in DC on the time of independence. And I don't like celebrating independence when we actually are very dependent and very unfree when you think about all the things I just talked about. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.